when he presented his position here, has nothing to do with secular humanism. From the get-go, it's all about me. Matt thinks, Matt thinks, Matt thinks. I'm giving what Matt thinks, what Matt thinks, what Matt thinks, what Matt thinks.
Matt's position.
I came in with the Secular Humanist Manifesto. I came in with positions that aren't just that aren't merely my positions.
Oh, well, as long as multiple people hold the position, it
this
makes it valid.
guy's not serious, and I'm leaving. James, if you want a refund, you let me know.
Well, good day, sir. And I'll cover your refund, Mr. Matt.
He just said he'd cover my refund.
I would cover his refund.
No. Nope. Nope. This debate is over. Goodbye.
Goodbye.
The video that you're about to watch features a few key moments from the recent debate with famous atheist Matt Dillahunty. I hesitated to comment on this video because I wanted to make sure that I wasn't just dogpiling. I wanted to make sure that there's actually something profitable and fruitful here as a takeaway. And upon some reflection, I do believe that there are some very important things that can be pulled out of this interaction and learned by both Christians and seekers and vehement atheists. So with that being said, I'm going to go ahead and play the video. Let's watch the interaction, and I will give you guys my thoughts on the back end. I have a Lewis quote, a Chesterton quote, and a general commentary that connects the dots between a broad worldview, morality within that, and then sexual ethics as a subcomponent of morality. You'll see how that's all relevant as we dive into the clip. With that being said, let's do it.
What a God thinks is unknown and irrelevant. In the first version of the manifesto, it's presented as a religious view where it acknowledges there's no supernatural guarantee of human value. We advocate a heightened sense of personal life and a cooperative effort to promote social well-being. The goal of humanism is a free and universal society in which people voluntarily and intelligently cooperate for the common good. Individuals are precious and their dignity is affirmed. This is important. Us, human beings, affirming the value of individuals and human beings is more powerful than a God affirming it, and it's infinitely more powerful than a human claiming a God affirms this, which is all we appear to have. Mike Johnson's the new Speaker of the House in the United States. He's homophobic as all get out. He's argued to criminalize homosexuality. Homosexualities, by the way, are U.S. citizens with specific rights that he wants to take away. Moreover, he advocates for gay conversion therapy, which is unscientific and torturous, because he thinks he can help them pray the gay away, and the gay can be eliminated. He's not anti-gay. He just wants them to cease to exist as gay. They get to keep being human beings. He thinks there's no right to sodomy. Privacy laws don't protect everything, and he thinks that what sort of sex you have, it should be his to regulate. 2022, he presented what was called the Don't Say Gay bill, outlawing any discussion of gender identity, sexual orientation, or related subjects, which was incredibly problematic because he ignored what the experts have to say about age-appropriate content and how critical it is, especially for kids under 10, which was his target, to have correct language in order to better report on and about sexual abuse. He also says the teaching of evolution is to blame for mass shootings because we've taught a whole generation, a couple generations now, of Americans that there's no right or wrong, that it's about survival of the fittest. And if you evolve from a primordial slime, what is that life of any sacred value? Some of you are saying, hang on, he's the Speaker of the House, he's not the Speaker of Christianity, or that's not my type of Christianity. Great. But what is your type? What's your type of Christianity like? Because there's a lot of them. How is it better? And how can we make sure that we get your better version than the one that Mike Johnson wants? He thinks his version is correct. So do you. Countless denominations without consensus. He's already got more power than my opponent has right now. So I don't know Andrew at all. I don't know what version of Christianity he's advocating for. I didn't bother to look him up. We literally just met and said hello as I sat down here. Is his version of Christianity better? I really hope so, because it'd be hard to get a whole lot worse.
There's a few ways this debate can go. The topic is Christian ethics versus secular humanism, which has a better foundation. The funny thing is, I already won that topic because, as Matt explained to Jay Dyer, he has no justification under the skeptical belief structure to give an accounting for any meta-ethical presupposition he may have. He just kind of grants himself stuff. He grants himself logic, he grants himself reason, he grants himself an entire worldview, even though he's using an unjustified starting position for it. So I'm not honestly all that interested in doing the God not real dough debate. because one, it's boring, and two, it's also really boring. It goes like this. I don't see enough evidence and remain unconvinced there's a God. Then I say, but you use a theistic worldview of justification like there is a God to grant yourself logic and everything else. So instead of that, I'm just going to grant Matt's entire worldview. 2/3 or more of this entire planet are all operating inside of a shared delusion that they were created by a sky daddy who loves him some slavery and murderousness. He thinks it's funny to kind of cosmically with people. That's his deal, kind of his whole thing. That's Matt's worldview. So now Matt's right, and the question becomes, should we let them to continue to believe in this nonsensical Stone Age madness, or do we stop them from engaging in it? My contention is, even if God isn't real at all, that people acting as though he is still superior to whatever nonsensical egalitarian worldview Matt can come up with. See, Matt also just acts as though the things he believes are true. He believes, and therefore acts as though logic is real, math is real. Everything is real based on his presuppositional belief that they are real. You see, human flourishing, the cornerstone of Matt's ideology and that of secular humanism, is totally meaningless. Flourishing by whose metric? From my perspective, for instance, attempting to lie to people who claim men can be women isn't human flourishing. From Matt's perspective, it is. Why? Why should the collective of humanity lie and say men can get pregnant? Why should they say that men can have periods? Things which are categorically and obviously false. That preserving homosexuality in society is good for human flourishing, even though they are reproductive dead ends. And that Western society and egalitarianism is superior to those evil theist society, even though the Western nations can't even reproduce their own populations, but instead have to replace their population with foreigners from those theist nations that can reproduce. Let's start with a basic societal question recently asked of the West, who has now embraced a scientific and non-theistic approach to governing. Super basic question every kindergartner knows. If you don't believe me, go watch Kindergarten Cop. The question posed to the Western nation is, can a man be a woman? All right? To the question of if a man can be a woman, they say the answer is yes. And the way we will decree they can be a woman is by simply saying that woman now means male. Problem solved. Thank you, secular humanists. Thank you so much. Nope, not kidding. Why, you ask, would people be this over-the-top stupid? Well, it's simple. The good is the good, man. We have to do what's good for human society and human flourishing. And if you don't call these deranged lunatics something they obviously aren't, they might self-terminate. So in order to avoid that, we need to make everybody on planet Earth lie to them. This is human flourishing. Just redefine shit, pretend it's true. How laughably absurd this worldview is. Matt will often say, I remain unconvinced. Well, Matt, I'm also going to use your standard. I need for you to 100% convince me beyond a shadow of a doubt that males can have babies. What's the answer going to be? No, Andrew, you big stupid. Males can't have babies. Men can have babies. Because we just defined man to include females, dummy. Well, Matt, I remain unconvinced. I'd like Matt to convince me that if you are a male and you are having sex with another male, which would not be allowed in my version of a secular humanist worldview, how is it that you're not just basically having sex with a guy with a wig on? I really want to know the answer to that question. Not just me, but all rational people who aren't lunatics also want to know why it's ma'am isn't a complete and total crock of garbage. Because I remain unconvinced that it isn't a total lie, and that these people don't just pervert the language to include their own perversions and then add human flourishing at the end. Matt has said he wouldn't make a law stopping 9-year-olds from having sex with each other. Not kidding. Now, I know this is going to sound a little bit totalitarian, but I would in fact create laws that made it a crime for a 9-year-old to have sex with their 9-year-old. I would hold the parents criminally liable for allowing this to happen in my evil authoritarian society, where I don't even let 9-year-olds have sex or the parents go straight to jail for negligence. Now, I think that's better for human flourishing. I think maybe parents would be far less likely to let their 9-year-olds do that if they went to jail. Stupid me. Next, I would in my authoritarian society decree that all simulated sex acts in public were criminal offenses and would make sure that all people went to prison for the crime of indecency. which doesn't assist with human flourishing, and I'd like to know why I'm wrong. Secular humanism can basically be whatever the hell you want it to be. It doesn't really need the principle of freedom or the starting axiom of freedom and peace in order to postulate whatever it wants. It's sloganeering. They're slogans. They don't mean anything. Okay, why do 9-year-olds need to be able to have sex in order to advance humanity? Why do we need to lie about a person's sex in order to advance humanity? Why are these things necessary for human flourishing? Why are decency laws bad? Why would Christian ethics stop flourishing when the theist mandate is to reproduce and the secular mandate is let's just all have sex and have fun, bro? That sounds way worse for human flourishing. In fact, I would say not reproducing is a worst possible thing for human flourishing, because if there's no humans, how do you flourish? So I guess, in essence, step 1, I remain unconvinced. Step 2, I need to be convinced, so I am no longer unconvinced. And step 3, but God not real though doesn't matter here. I've already granted it to still demonstrate just how stupid this ideology actually is. With that, I'll yield my time, and I'm happy to get into it.
Hey, James, I just sent you a message.
All right. We are going to kick it into an open discussion, so 50 minutes, and let's kick it.
No, I don't think so. I'm not going to sit here and dignify the preparation that I went through and what people were here for.
You're so indignant.
Keep interrupting me.
I am.
Okay.
You're so indignant.
Would the moderator like to step in so that I can finish what I'm saying?
Please, Matt. Please. How dare someone have an opposing worldview?
I'm not going to sit here and dignify what was supposed to be a debate about Christianity versus secular humanism, which one's better for the world,
Yes.
with someone who clearly showed up with an agenda that has nothing to do with that. Someone who refers to trans people as deranged lunatics who will self-terminate if you dare to question them.
How am I wrong, Matt?
Someone who misrepresents a quote from a debate where I said I wouldn't make a law about 9-year-olds having sex being legal with respect to the 9-year-olds, not that I was in any way in favor of it and that I was actually opposed to it, which I addressed during that debate. But moreover, this is not remotely an honest interaction on the front of whether or not secular humanism is valuable. Because this, when he presented his position here, has nothing to do with secular humanism. From the get-go, it's all about me. Matt thinks, Matt thinks, Matt thinks. I'm giving what Matt thinks, what Matt thinks, what Matt thinks, what Matt thinks.
Matt's position.
I came in with the Secular Humanist Manifesto. I came in with positions that aren't just that aren't merely my positions.
Oh, well, as long as multiple people hold the position, it
this
makes it valid.
guy's not serious, and I'm leaving. James, if you want a refund, you let me know.
Well, good day, sir. And I'll cover your refund, Mr.
Cool.
Matt.
He just said he'd cover my refund.
I would cover his refund.
No. Nope. Nope. This debate is over. Goodbye.
Goodbye.
All right, so there's a few ironies that need to be pointed out here. The first one is that Matt Dillahunty says that he did not really prepare for this debate, that he didn't research to understand who he was actually talking to. And then at the same time, here in this moment at the end of the debate, that the reason that he's going to rage quit is because this attack doesn't dignify the time he took in preparation. So that's the first irony. The second irony is that he rage quits because Andrew Wilson here is using sexual ethics as a subcategory of morality as a way of understanding the value of a broader belief system. But so does Matt. Matt's opening statement is basically saying that the sexual ethic that comes out of a biblical worldview is bad for society. So he's established that as a legitimate way of talking about the legitimacy of a worldview through a sexual ethical lens. And then Andrew Wilson here says, okay, great. If that's going to be the way that we're going to talk about the legitimacy or benefit of a worldview is its practical implications on society in terms of morality, in terms of sexuality as a subcategory, then fine. Let's go ahead and see how that cuts. And when that cuts both ways, you see that it doesn't fare very well for Dillahunty. But the irony is that he seems to dismiss that as a legitimate way, or even to be offended that he is being confronted with the ramifications of the sexual ethic within a secular humanist worldview. So that's the second irony. Now, what I want to do is because it's often helpful to go to the thinkers of the past rather than just pontificating myself. So I'm going to give you guys a couple things to ponder this interaction through. First is C.S. Lewis from The Abolition of Man. And this is what he says. In a sort of ghastly simplicity, we remove the organ and demand the function. We make men without chest and expect of them virtue and enterprise. We laugh at honor and are shocked to find traitors in our midst. We castrate and bid the geldings be fruitful. Now, this is a metaphor. I'm not applying this to the transgender issue, although there is obviously some irony that could be looked at there as well. But the point is this, that when you cut God out and then expect there to be a result as if he's still there, you begin to run into huge societal problems. Now, G.K. Chesterton unpacks this idea at a little bit more length, and this is so profound. If you listen to nothing else, listen to this. Here's his quote. Quote, "When a religious scheme is shattered, it is not merely the vices that are let loose. The vices are indeed let loose, and they wander and do damage. But the virtues are let loose also, and the virtues wander more wildly, and the virtues do more terrible damage. The modern world is full of the old Christian virtues gone mad. The virtues have gone mad because they have been isolated from each other and are wandering alone. Thus, some scientists care for truth, and their truth is pitiless," which is also ironic because that's the same word that Richard Dawkins uses. "Thus, some humanitarians only care for pity, and their pity, I'm sorry to say, is often untruthful." So this is the picture that is being painted here. It's taking the virtuous landscape that exists within a biblical worldview and shattering it. Sort of like when Nietzsche said that God is dead. We have no longer recognized him in society. We don't care about his way of doing things or the moral law that he has given us. And so it explodes like a bomb going off. But you have this shrapnel. You still have a desire for empathy, a desire for love, a desire for the common goodwill of mankind. But these things are no longer connected to their source. And so they're, like he says, virtues run amok, virtues wandering wildly about. And I think that this metaphor is such an incredibly helpful way of understanding the world that we are facing right now in 2023 in the West. It is exactly as Chesterton describes. It is a world where things are disconnected from each other, but still our human baked-in sense of moral conscience is at play. And so we still are trying to formulate some sort of a cohesive way of living within a secular humanist model, but it doesn't work. The center cannot hold. It simply becomes incoherent at some point. And I think you see that in this debate. This debater, Andrew Wilson, does a good job of pointing out the incoherence that inevitably follows, not to mention the danger that can also follow when you have these disjointed virtues. When God is no longer a part of the equation within a secular humanist model, there are real risks posed to the weak and vulnerable members of society. And it's when you leave the circle that has been established by God and you cross that boundary line. My question is this: what is going to hold us back from more and more depraved varieties of sexual immorality, leading right up to child abuse? This idea, this mantra that love is love. Can't you see where this is going to lead to next? There's actually an organization called NAMBLA, the North American Man-Boy Love Association, and they right now, and have been for about a decade, are piggybacking on the LGBTQ issue. And they're saying, yes, us too. Love is love. That's right. Just like two people here should be able to love each other, I, as a 51-year-old man, should be able to love a 9-year-old boy. And can't you see that when you cross the line, the boundary lines that have been given to us from above, when you believe that morality is just something that has evolved up from the bottom, why should it be fixed? Why should it be something that is applicable to all people at all times? If it's just something that's trickling up from the bottom, something that's simply merely evolving, why would we stop where we are now? And you can see this Chesterton idea of society going mad, of virtues running amok. You can see it playing itself out so clearly. So I think that this debate is a net positive in that Andrew Wilson holds Matt Dillahunty's feet to the fire and exposes these ironies, lets people see the way in which his worldview is self-refuting and breaks down. Christians, it's important that we remain loving. And I don't just mean in terms of our actions, I mean in terms of our actual heart. It's important that we actually love atheists, that we love people, and that we love people enough to tell them the truth, which is what you see in this debate, and I think that's important. And obviously, I enjoy watching a video like this for the complete obliteration of the worldview of secular humanism as it relates to its ability to bring about a flourishing society. So that's another thing to consider, is always the individual, the person, and then the worldview, the person, Matt Dillahunty, and the belief system that he represents. And I think as long as we are attacking lies with truth while at the same time still loving the person and viewing them through the lens of God, seeing the image of God inside of them, and the fact that they have themselves been created by God and for God. I think this is it's a tightrope to walk, but I think that this video is fruitful and good in that it allows us to ponder this tightrope. And so with all of that being said, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I definitely did. Pray for Matt Dillahunty today. Imagine that this moment could be a moment of reflection, a moment of humility. Imagine that this could be something that God could work with in terms of bringing him to the cross. With that being said, see you guys in the next one.